I just won the Chicago Team League Regionals with Great Nature. So this is the deck. I'll start with the G Zone. So the only cards you really need in this deck are Valoro, Zoa, and Spank. That's really all you need. If you have these three, you can win like most of your games. Having a second Valoro is optimal in case the first one doesn't work and you can't get Zoa. You only need one Zoa, of course, and some extra G Guardians of variety is fine. I play like basically one of each of the other ones. Doesn't really matter what they are. Backup G units are Big Belly.
You played 4?
Yeah, like it's pretty much filler. Like you don't really need any of them. Having a pair is nice. I actually strode it twice and used all 4 at one match against Mega Colony because they were Obi-Tyrannus me and then I couldn't call anything, but I did have 1 rear guard left, so I just big bellied it twice over the 2 turns that they used Obi-Tyrannus. And so yeah, that was actually really important for me because nothing else in my G Zone would have done anything. And then the rest of the cards are filler. I have Mana Gamma, just in case, I guess. It works well with the Rhino if you don't have Zoa, but otherwise it's not the most important card. And I have one of these for any edges, but he doesn't really do anything. Never strode him. It's just filler. But yeah, that's basically it. Leopold, he'll get you a plus on play if you mill a normal unit. Unfortunately, if you mill a trigger, you don't really get anything. You get a crit and 15k, but usually you're going to stride anyway, so you lose that ability if you do mill a trigger unit, so it's not really that useful. It actually was useful in one matchup against, who was it, Geese, because they were not trying to give me damage, and so I was able to just mill a trigger, and I was like, okay, I can use this crit because none of my G units get a crit, and I could push for like efficient damage against them, and then I wouldn't have to play a front row, and I could force them to attack my Vanguard, which would essentially give me counterblast to use, which I could use for restanders. And so those restanders are Big Belly. I play 2 rearguard effects. You can counterblast once to restand a rearguard at the end of the battle, and so that's really useful for pushing damage and pressuring your opponent. And the other key component of this deck is Talented Rhinoceros, or Talented Rhinos. He's the combo with Zoa. If you get this off on a Zoa, and with one other card, the Monoculous Tiger, this is the Monoculous Tiger, then you can essentially get an unguardable attack, except for either protect markers if you mill a trigger unit, or if you do happen to mill the normal unit and they can't use Sentinels, then they can still use G Guardians. But otherwise, most decks won't be able to guard this attack, and you win the game if you hit. So that's easy. You only need 2 because you can search the deck out, the Rhinos out with this deck pretty easily, and you don't want to fill up your deck with useless grade 3 rides. So that's it for the grade 3s. Next, grade 2s. Your main card is going to be Crayon Tiger, 4 of course. All the other grade 2s in the deck, it's pretty much optional. You want some good early game beaters for the retire effects so that you can get your grade 1 effects off, but really all you need is Crayon Tiger. The rest is filler. So I have Artistic Ocelot and Tapir for the early game retires. Lesser Rider is also capable of getting you that early game retire for a Soul Blast. So the Soul Blast is a little heavy for this deck because you do rely on your soul for your other effects, so you don't want to use Lesser Rider. But Lesser Rider is good for the Kagero matchups or any matchups where they can retire your units on attack. Yeah, so it can protect things like the Rhino or the Big Belly, but not really a whole lot else. So it's not the most useful. It's mainly just filler, stuff that can retire early on. And then the last 2 cards I have are Barcode Zebra, also just filler. But he's a great early game if you happen to get a free plus off of him. He's on play, you check the top card, it's grade 1 or 2, you call it for free. So it's nice. It's 7k base, so it's not like strong, but it's good for early game. Yeah, it's like basically 50-50 whether or not you get the effect, but it can really help you get that early game rush. Pretty nice. The only discrepancy with playing Barcode Zebra is that if you do ride it and you call a Duckbill or a Mixaboro, you do not get their effects because their effects only go off in the main phase, and you play this during the ride phase, which means it's not the main phase and you won't get those effects. So that's the only bad downside to the riding it. But yeah, that's all for the Crayon Tigers, or the grade 2s. Next is the grade 1s. So of course, the most important card is the Monoculous Tiger. That's a 4 of, if I can find it. Where did he go? You need this to boost your Rhino for the Zoa turn. Also useful, like on its own, its effect can be activated on attack or on boost. So it can make any of your attacks have a guard restriction, which is really nice in this game. It does cost a Soul Blast, so you have to be careful with when you're using your Soul and not try and spam it too much. You gotta save it for the essential turns. And the early game engine is gonna be Mixaboro, 4 of mandatory, so you can search out your Leopolds and get that early game that ride consistency as well. And you can also search out Big Belly if you want like a good first stride push and whatnot. 3 Duckbill, not a whole lot of room to fit the 4th Duckbill, so 3 is fine. And then it gives you the draw when you kill something. And then Mini Belly, Stride Fodder. Yeah, just for that stride consistency. Only 3 of, because not a whole lot of room. You can't really fit 4 or more. You could, of course, mess with the ratios if you want. You can play 2 Duckbill, 4 Stride Fodder, or 2 Stride Fodder, 4 Duckbill. It's really up to you. It's all preference. I went 3-3. Seemed the most consistent. And trigger lineup. I play a mix rainbow. I got 4 crits, 4 heals. Let's see, 4 draw, 4 front. Did not organize this. There you go. I got 2 of everything here. For the heals, preferably I would have had the spined heal, but I couldn't afford this 50-cent card or dollar card or whatever, so I just played the older ones. They essentially do the same thing for the counterblast, or for the countercharge, except they do cost a soul. So if you are in need of soul, you don't want to use the effect, but if you have plenty of soul, like you rode a few times, or you got the soul charge off of the other heal, then you could afford to use this soul blast to get the countercharge.
Why not the 10k heal though?
The 10k heal?
The Dictionary Goat.
Dictionary Goat.
The V series heal.
Oh, the 20k. Yeah. Shield. Okay. I mean, you really want the counter charge or the soul charge because the deck does rely on having soul to use its skills. Like Bolaro is going to cost you a soul blast. He costs a soul blast. Your Monoculous Tiger costs a soul blast. If I'm using Lesser Rider, that'll cost me a soul blast. It's just too much soul, and you really need the bind ones. Yeah, so preferably I would have had like at least 4, probably 4 of them. But I went budget. I didn't bother picking them up. Yeah, and so the rest of the triggers are just rainbow, crits, fronts, draws. Pretty straightforward. And then because I wasn't playing like the maximum amount of early game retire units at grade 2, I could have played things like Compass Line. I had to play like Telescope Rabbit as my starter. So this lets me counterblast 1, arrest it, give a unit 4k, and then I retire at the end phase. And yeah, so this just lets me get the grade 1 effects off for Mixaboro and Calling Duckbill. Yeah, and that's essentially the deck.
Matchups for today.
Matchups? So I fought a good variety of matchups today. I had 2 losses. I went
what slot were you in?
7, 8, and 2. I was in the B seat for the team. My only losses were to Gold Paladin and who did I lose to? I don't remember, man.
I don't remember.
Just keep talking about it. What happened in the top 8 with you?
Yeah, so in the top 8, I got the rematch against the same Gold Paladin player. I ended up getting the win. Pretty lucky for that one. Had to top deck a few cards like my grade 3 ride on Leopold. And then my opponent wasn't able to stride 1 turn. I should have been safe anyways, even if he could stride, but it just made gave me the advantage, like just such a big advantage, and I knew that I could finish him the turn after. I played against a Kagero. Kagero was a tough matchup. They could, of course, use Denial Griffin to retire one of my attackers. That did hurt me, but I was able to get a good enough advantage. That was our semifinal match.
Semifinal was Geese, no?
Semifinals was Geese.
Oh, that was the final match. For the finals match, it was against Kagero, and they were able to use Denial Griffin against me. Fortunately, they had to. They were grade locked at 0 the first turn, and I was able to get a decent rush advantage. Unfortunately, I also was grade locked, and I couldn't get the 3 for a turn. But I think that advantage of just being able to rush him at 0 was way more, like, just way worse for him than me being stuck at 2 for a turn. And so through that, I was just able to keep pushing my advantage, and he was never really able to like kill me. He was able to retire my board pretty well, but I just re-rolled Leopold, and I got the +4 pretty easy.
Tell us a little bit about the Geese matchup.
So for the Geese matchup in the semifinals,
which variant of Geese?
They were playing the Shadows Geese matchup, or the Shadows build, and they attempted to not give me damage at first, and they were attacking my. I tried to like poke at them with rear guards, but they attacked my rear guards. So eventually, by like turn 3, I rode Leopold, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna play the front row. I happened to mill a trigger unit on the on-play effect, so they gave me 15 and a crit. But because I poked them for good damage in the early game, I put them to 4. And so with that crit, I just didn't really need a rear guard. I just swung in for the crit, and luckily for me, they didn't have a perfect guard or like a G Guardian, and they literally ditched 6 cards in hand just to guard that attack for a no pass because they didn't want to get that, double crit trigger or whatever trigger and lose the game right out. So basically they had a huge disadvantage, and from there they weren't able to trigger their triggers fast enough to get the Geese off, and I just was able to go into a Boloro eventually and just swing for like +12 on my columns. And that was pretty much it.
Do you have any deck changes that you would have made, or like if you had any options?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the heal triggers, you definitely want the ones that bind. So this one, not that one. And I think the fronts and the crits are fine at 4 of each. The rainbow is fine there. I guess the only real change I would make is the grade 2 lineup. If you look at it, it's just a bunch of like mismatched. I didn't really care enough to change it out. It's just what I had on me, so it's whatever. They did what they needed to do. Like I know my other friend who also plays Great Nature. He plays like the Compass Lion and the other big grade 2 that retires.
Baikale Baku?
Yeah, whatever that thing is called. You could play those. I probably would have liked to have played some of that, but this ended up working for me. The Zebra did give me a few pluses in a few games that were, I guess, they probably were more essential than I realized, but because it's such a good rush. The Ocelot is actually pretty nice. I wouldn't mind keeping these because they do have the +4K and retire ability on Vanguard and Rearguard. So that's really nice if you get to ride it. The Tapir, it could be another Ocelot. It didn't really do anything as a Tapir. The resist is irrelevant, so you really need this. The Lesser Riders for the Kagura matchup didn't really come up. Wasn't essential. Could definitely drop these for something else like the Compass Lions or an Ocelot, or even Barcode Zebra. I like Barcode Zebra. He's a free plus early game. But it's a gamble, a coin flip. So if you're into that stuff, Barcode Zebra is nice. Otherwise, that's the most essential changes I would have made.
Do you have any other shout-outs or credit that you want to give anyone?
Oh yeah, definitely shout out to my teammates. Couldn't have done it without them. Like my teammate Phil, he was playing the Ange Bermuda. He went X1, I went X2 today. Couldn't win without him. Our third teammate David, he he took all the hard matchups, I guess, and he wasn't able to win as often. But you know, he won when we needed him to. So there was this one round where I lost, but we wouldn't have been able to get it without him. He won that match, and he got us that round. So everyone's important. Everyone's a team player. Yeah.
Any more shout-outs?
Shout out to my boy Albert right here, who's filming. He had to take a game loss in top 8 for discrepancy in his deck list. Couldn't have won without him losing. Thanks for the win.
This guy. To be fair, and I'm going to say this on camera. Well, I probably should have said it in my deck interview, but Albert did lose the dice roll. We had the mirror going on, right?
Yeah.
But we found out in the Swiss rounds actually that whoever wins the dice roll in that matchup automatically wins the game.
Yeah,
it actually doesn't matter.
Yeah, so for the run back, we lost to him the first time. My teammate Phil won against his matchup, even though he got the free win in the run back. I was able to win my run back against the Go Paladin player Kevin Cho. Also, shout out to him, good friend, great player. He helped me build this deck, and yeah, I was able to beat him out for the win that round, and eventually we took the championship. So yeah, great day.
All right. Thanks to Brian May for giving us his deck profile and his tournament recap. Stay tuned with WCC to see more from Rosemont, as well as other tournament decks, recaps, as well as more analysis that will be coming to you soon. See you later, guys.